We love you, Adrian. Well, last but certainly not least is the delightful Jessica Osterday, who's also one of our senior love coaches. And she also has been involved in some of our online shows. And she also brings to Love Coach Academy brain spotting. Jessica, tell us a little bit about kind of your favorite form of coaching and a little bit about brain spotting.
Yes, I would love to. My heart is so full being here with you guys today. I appreciate each one of you so deeply. And I think Heidi, I don't know you super well yet, but I love what each of us bring to the table, and I'm really honored to be here today. So I just have a lot of like sparkly sort of love feelings coming out that I'm enjoying. So when I think about Love Coach Academy and I think about what I've learned from the practices here, a lot of it is, well, it's empathy, but to me, it's also defining what empathy means to me and what it means for my own practice and how I can give it. So for me, I really I like this idea of, I work with a lot of people with anxiety, and I work with people with anger and those like very squirrely emotions that we love to judge in ourselves, just these pieces of ourselves that are very painful and they cause pain in other people. And they cause pain in our relationships. And most of all, and sometimes we don't even notice it, they cause a lot of pain in ourselves. And so what I like about empathy is that usually when we have these very squirrely emotions, there is such a frantic desire and need to fix them because they're uncomfortable. They don't sit right. But what empathy does, I think, is it's like sitting next to a friend who's in pain or a friend who's in need. We're not trying to fix, we're actually just offering a steady shoulder to be next to and to say that it's okay in this moment to accept that this might be true. And so, I am trained in brain spotting, and that's, the majority of my practice is this practice called brain spotting, which sounds so funny, but really it has to do with repatterning old belief systems. And a lot of the way that I do that is by meeting people in these in our most challenging places with that shoulder. And I think that is really the basis of healing. There is a part of me in this idea that is sort of gestating in me, and that I'm learning from, and I'm learning with, and I want to share, which is just this idea of being with and creating acceptance for self and for other, and the tremendous opportunity that brings to heal. So brain spotting, as it's kind of a fun name. We use eye positioning in order to access the unconscious mind, which runs about 10 times faster than our conscious thought process. So we kind of get underneath to the reactive state, and we can adjust some of these really old and stagnant belief systems that run counter to who we want to be, who we really believe ourselves to be. So that's a little bit about what I do, and that's the deep love that I want to bring to the world. I am also joining Trish in the Single and Sovereign group. And really like looking at I feel like my position with this new group is actually like dealing with the back end of our thought processes that really keep us from having the lives that we want, the relationships that we want, and really like coming into sovereignty in a big way, which I think means repatterning those belief systems when they're keeping us from the good stuff. So that's it for me for now. More to come.
All right, well, while I have both of you up, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask some classic questions, some of the most difficult problems that people bring to Love Coach Academy and to our coaches. And so I'm going to start with kind of going almost in order of people who are single issues, new relationship and dating issues, new relationship issues and long-term relationship issues, and get just like quick tools and medicine from each of you. So I've got a list of classic questions and problems. First one for either of you, and then anybody else wants to come on in. How do you manage when someone is single? They want to be in a relationship, but they are so hurt. They are so devastated by their past that they can't even imagine dating. What's the medicine? What would be one way to manage that?
Oh man, can I jump in? Do you mind? Okay, so my first thought is, because like when we're in that amount of pain just after having a breakup, or maybe it's long-term pain, but if it's keeping us from like really moving forward, my recommendation would just be to slow down, which is the opposite of usually what we want to do. We usually want to run into something new. We want to like take our mind off of the pain and separate from it as quickly as possible. And my recommendation is to slow down and take a breath and examine, because you have a pause for a reason. We have a pause for a reason. And normally there's very deep wisdom there. So that's my first.
That's a great one. Trish?
For me, I think the first place for anyone who's either newly single, Winston wants to be part of this conversation today. He's just started. So yeah, for me, the first thing to really approach for people who are newly single and for people who are still in a lot of pain is to really look at that and find self-empathy, find where you can self-source, and really look for the reasons why you're so hurt by that. And then there's a lot of places where you can do an amends process, both with yourself and with the other person, even if you don't have closure, right? So there's places to go. And I agree with you, Jessica, is slowing it down. That you don't have to go out and date, even though maybe you're lonely. Like, especially if you're lonely, is not the right place to go out and seek partnership or lovership. That the air of neediness or the air of uncertainty and wobbly is not the place to come from, but you want to meet your partner somewhere that's really in your sovereign, safe internal space. So that's what the group is about. That's what my work is about. I specifically work with codependents because I once was one and still, have those tendencies that I keep working at, really dissolving and loving deeper. So yeah, again, it's really about slowing down and finding the places where you can love yourself deeper.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to add a masculine perspective. Timothy, what are your thoughts about this dilemma?
That's such great wisdom coming from both women, slowing down and really allowing ourselves to feel the pain, be with it. I would simply add recognizing our responsibility in the failures of our relationships or of the relationship, and recognizing the responsibility for taking care of our own heart. This often would lead us towards discovering some boundaries or things we might do differently when we do start to feel more sovereign, as Trish said, and are ready to date again. But taking responsibility allows us to not be victims, not make the other the perpetrator, which is what most of us do when our heart's broken. We go to one side or the other, or both, back and forth. And once we have slowed down, felt the feelings, obviously as coaches, therapists, we would meet that with a lot of empathy. Taking responsibility, as Trish was saying, like making amends, doing things that actually help us to reorganize what occurred, then we can get really clear on not only what we want, but how we're going to go about creating this new type of relationship, because most of us repeat the same patterns over and over. And so this is where I think getting help and assistance, this group is great that they've started at really identifying our patterns so we can shift and make new ones. And the last thing I'll say is the longing the longing to be loved, the longing to be in partnership, the longing to co-create a beautiful life with another or with others. Yes, of course, enough, so beautiful. And so to be able to come back to that longing and know that that longing can take us into a direction that's actually empowering and healthy and beautiful, as opposed to hurtful, destructive, some of the things that some people have experienced.
Thank
Love
you.
that. I love that.
Isn't it amazing the wonderful people that we've got in Love Coach Academy? I mean, it's pretty doggone cool. And along those lines, I want to invite our listeners, if you're watching in our Zoom room or in Facebook, give us your thoughts, give us your questions. And our friend Shauna out in New England writes, I'm so grateful you decided to do this show because, wow, it's life-changing. Everyone on this panel tonight have taught, shared, held space positively, and have impacted my own life and people that I love, their lives. Thank you to all of you who are serving and showing up at Love Coach Academy. So thank you, Shauna. Shauna is someone who's come to some of our online classes, including our Wednesday night empathy practice group. So every Wednesday night, we have an empathy practice group that's open to the public. It's not on Facebook, it's confidential, it's private. But if you want to come into the empathy practice group, just private message one of me and we'll give you the information.
You can also message Straight Talk, probably either one of us, and we can help you find that.
One more thing about single. I have one more question about single. And I also, while I've got it, I want to just spotlight that Trish, you just started a new Facebook page. Tell us about this. I've got it up on the Zoom room right now.
So, after having multiple relationships that failed because I needed to find my sovereign space and to find my own security and learn how to manage the emotional spaces that I was moving through, and wanted to teach my partner or have them meet me there. I saw that there was a need for single people. Like, how do we develop skills? I mean, Love Coach Academy is really heavy on relationships, and there's a lot of people there's a lot of people out there who really need to build skills. And honestly, Love Coach Academy has helped me develop the skills to get into a really healthy relationship, in which I'm in now. So that right there, now I know how to self-source. I know how to find empathy for myself and others. I mean, these are the profound foundational tools for relating to self and other. I mean, that's the truth there. Like, that's where, if you want to have a good relationship, it's enjoying yourself in that place, but also doing your work and not laying it on someone else. Like, oh, you do it. You be a better communicator.
I'm here to testify because I connected with Trish over a year ago. She's coming out of a pretty big breakup, a hard breakup, a hard pair of breakups, actually. Yep. And she did the work. She really studied with Love Coach Academy, rapidly became a love coach with us after she kind of got her training, studied elsewhere, and was constantly processing, learning, self-reflecting. And now she's got a wonderful new beloved. So it works. It works. All right, here's another question. I'm going to remove myself, ask the question, and see who else wants to come in and answer it. So we have a question from somebody. I still don't trust myself, and I really don't trust others because of what's happened in the past. So I'll let Trish tackle that first, and then any other love coach that wants to go there. Okay, well, I'll add Heidi also. But take it away, Trish, you first.
Oh dear. Gosh, I really resonate with this because there were places where I didn't trust my picker, if you know what I mean. I was like, oh, and I wasn't, you're right, I wasn't trusting myself. And that took a while to sort of dissolve the belief systems that I was running about that something was inherently wrong with me. There was also a place of really being really scared and not allowing or owning my feelings, not allowing them, mostly how to handle my own anger, my frustration, and how to be how to just be with someone's not dislike of me. Because people are just, you just don't like everything, like the way I do dishes or the way I fold towels, which I don't really do that well. I'm just going to have to be okay with that, you know? So there's ways to learn how to trust yourself. And it really does start with you. And then as you trust yourself and feel more stable within you, you can start to trust others because you know that you're not going to abandon yourself, or you know that you're not going to hurt another person because you have the willpower. Okay, take it away. I've been bantering a while.
Heidi, what are your thoughts on this topic?
This has been a lifelong topic for me and many clients, I talk to about it. Lots of people, the buzzword, right? We have trust issues. I can't trust others. So I grew up in a home that, and life, kind of chaotic life, that showed a lot of evidence that you just can't trust. I could give you stories and stories of evidence why not to trust, right? So that was something I really had to work on and continue to work on. And so at first I set out to do that work to learn to trust others. I think I'm echoing. And what I really found, and this echoes what Trish just said, is really who we need to trust is ourselves. And I'm going to go somewhere else with it too. But in relationship, when I learned that I could set boundaries, that I could work on my codependency, that I could communicate in an effective way, I could trust me to leave or stay, to say yes or no, to know what I needed, to know what didn't work for me. And those were things years ago that I wouldn't have known. So I just didn't trust relationship. So it was a huge epiphany when I learned that I can trust me in any relationship. And I would say that that's the best place to go. Now, personally, where I'm working on, and it seems whatever I'm working on, I attract clients that are also needing to work on that, is looking at the deepest trust wound that I have. And it isn't a mommy trust issue or a daddy trust issue or a relationship trust issue. It's like not fully trusting the divine or God or whatever you want to call it. I'll call it a higher power, really relaxing into that and trusting it. And I've been asking myself that question. If I really trusted that, how would I live my day differently today? So I'll leave you with that question.
So beautiful, Heidi. Thank you for that share. Just reminding us, for those of us that do believe in another force or another power, really resonated with me. Scott?
Yeah, thank you. So we've got a lot of wonderful questions coming in, which I'm really grateful for. Dating in the time of COVID. Who wants to tackle that? Dating in the time of COVID. Somebody, okay, Timothy, take it away.
Yeah, who knew that online dating would become a way of making friends and having conversations? And that's where I would start. Is there's nothing wrong with getting onto a dating app and making a profile that's really clear that what you're looking for is possibly friendship and online connections because you're so lonely and you've isolated because of this COVID-19 situation. At the same time, I think it's really important that we respect everybody's way of doing it. It's one thing that I've noticed is that some people are shocked that someone might be going on a social distanced walk with a stranger. And I think it's important to acknowledge that that's their choice, those two people, and then that's perfectly okay. And for some people that might not be, and for some people a different option where they do that walk, social distanced walk, after they've chatted online for a while. They like each other enough that they really vet each other and what are your COVID practices. And this is the main thing I'd like to stress is you want to be associating, if you're going to be dating, with people who share similar COVID practices as you. If you're what I call a level 1 and you're isolating at home and you want no contact with anyone and all your food is delivered through Instacart to your house, you're not a real good match for someone who's a level 4, which is no mask, running around, having a great time, not really concerned about it, or, you know, and I'm not judging either. You want to find people who are in the same level. So I look at a level 2 as being, yeah, let's chat online, get to know each other, see if there's some resonance, have a Zoom call or two. Hey, let's go on a social distance walk. And then we see if we're a match in areas or not. And that we've got that level 2 ability. But if we're trying to match with someone who's really outside of our box, it's going to be an issue in these COVID times. That said, I think all of us that are practicing some form of social distancing need to have a way of dating ourselves, and some form of taking a hot bath or meditating or dancing or going on a walk or exercising or journaling, where we really cultivate a relationship with our inner self and are loving ourselves, dating ourselves, because we're spending a lot of time alone. And if we're too busy watching Netflix and news and other things and not really coming inward, then the loneliness and some of the other things can get unbearable. And then, as Heidi and I talk about, most people start to move towards process addiction, some form of compulsive behavior to compensate for the feelings they're having. So I think I've said enough. Somebody else.
I think you said that was brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So here's kind of another question that we got that's kind of a perfect next step for what you were talking about. When people are first dating, how do I know that it's time to get sexual? And what happens when one of us is ready and the other one isn't? How to manage that without somebody feeling rejected or the other person feeling pushed? So I'd love to hear from at least one or two of the women on that, because obviously I think it's awkward for us guys, but it's awkward for the gals too. So Jessica, you're up.
Okay. I've been doing this new practice with a lot of my life, not just potential sexuality or potential partnerships. And that is, I've realized, and this actually ties into what we're talking about, not about willingness to trust others, willingness to trust self. And for me, what I recognize is that my body knows truth. And that my body is actually, like, my mind can go into anxiety. My mind can do a lot of interesting things. And so there's that whole conversation, right, during stress or in that situation. And my emotions can change from moment to moment, as emotions are meant to do, right? They shift 1 minute to the next. It's very present. My body tends to have information at the ready if I'm paying attention. And so for me, there's that conversation, because for me, sex or intimacy, especially in the time of COVID, or even hand holding in the time of COVID, it takes a different level of awareness for me to say, where am I today? Who am I today? And so for me, the things that I look for, am I relaxed in my body? If I'm even just thinking about someone as a potential partner, am I relaxed in my body? Am I feeling at ease, or am I feeling like something's wrong? Because what I recognize is that my body is actually a mirror. My body, my emotions, my experience of life are a mirror for the outside world. So if there's a part of me reacting, there's the Jessica in the mind wants to ask, is this me? Or is this coming out from something that that's maybe not above ground yet? And maybe that's a little flag to notice ahead of time and be attentive to. And then again, I think, for me, it comes down to slowing down and listening and trusting myself. Because, I think the body knows who we inherently are in a way that we can justify around sometimes. So I
love
think
that.
that's it. Thank you.
Listening to the body, absolutely beautiful. Do either of our men, Adrian or Timothy, anything either of you want to add? Adrian, here we go.
I can say some words. Well, shoot, I just got recently engaged, 4 years, so new romantic relationship is a little out of my wheelhouse lately. But even, it can still be awkward for us a little bit. I think what's really important for me is to, I'll speak to some experiences I had before I got engaged. And one thing that's been really important for me to remind myself is it doesn't have to look any particular way. I think that it's so common for us to get conditioned about sex needing to look a particular way through media, through our own romantic notions of what beautiful, synchronistic, passionate sex should look like, and to really be open to it looking a lot of ways, which for me is using my words, kind of talking about what's going on for me, talking about what my concerns are, talking about what my insecurities are, asking, a lot of, this is what I want to do you want to do this? This is happening now, do we want this to continue to happen? Even kind of laying out a dynamic where recognizing that sex can be awkward, even speaking to that. And for me, actually speaking to the fact that even though I'm really functional, sometimes with new people, I get nervous and I don't get hard right away. Really helpful for me is kind of putting that on the table. And that as I get comfortable and with a little time, it can totally happen, but just know that so that I can get out of my own way. And that can just be such a beautiful part of what could be judged as being awkward, can be fun and playful and take more time. And yeah, so really speaking to all of the, for me, laying my concerns, laying my curiosities on the table is really important for navigating through awkwardness.
Beautiful. First of all, congratulations on your engagement. A reminder that I do perform wedding ceremonies, and I love you and Terry, just mentioning that. And it's interesting to note that both Jessica and Adrian, it was about listening to their body. Both the masculine and feminine was like, listen to your body, being curious. Heidi, I think you've got something to add.
Yeah, I want to jump in on this one because there's so much taboo in the group consciousness about sex, and all through the years there's been like dating rules. Don't have sex on the first date. Religious was don't have sex before married. There was a lot of don't messages going on around sex. And so I just wanted to bring that up because I think that it's really about self-reflection and knowing what's true for you. And there are no rules. I had plenty of sex on a first date and stayed with the person 16 years. So let's just debunk them right now. Just gonna debunk that myth. And I waited plenty of times too and didn't date the person or did date the person. So it's really about your own truth. I think that's always what it comes back to, especially with sexuality. And I also wanted to say that it's looking at your intention, and because is your intention to get something, to be wanted, to be loved, and you're trading sex for love. I mean, we need to be careful there, and it doesn't matter gender. It's just, are we trading that? And then we have sex and we go home and we're sad the next day because they don't call or whatever. So if you are choosing to have sex, it doesn't matter when, but choose it for yourself wisely, looking at what is the intention. And how I would answer the question of what if somebody doesn't want it and somebody does is empathy and communication, not making them wrong for wanting it, but honoring that you don't want it yet and having conversations about it. And if there is someone that doesn't want to be around you because you don't want to have sex with them, then it's probably not a match, and that's okay. We're not a match with everyone, and we don't need to trade sex as a currency.
I love my teaching partner, Trisha's expressions. Whenever we're doing straight talk, she has like these great expressions. So try to put the spotlight on her as fast as I can to catch them sometimes.
Okay, I want to say one more thing that felt was really important, really fast. The when we have sex, it produces oxytocin, especially early in a relationship. And so if you're somebody that's had thinks you're a bad picker and you get denial goggles on because you have sex and you're so in love and you have the whole fantasy going, it might be good to wait, because oxytocin kind of masks over people's character defects that you might not want to live with in 6 months. Just FYI, look into it. That's all I got.
Very good point. Very, very good point.
I just want to reiterate something that Heidi said.
Sure.
You don't have to use sex as currency. Let's just pin that to the wall somewhere. Thank you, Heidi.
Gosh, I can't use sex as currency anymore. It's been my
No
primary.
more, Scott.
Done.
In fact,
Well,
COVID.
the phrase is you do not have to. Clearly you can, but preferably you're honest about it if you are going to do that, right? So I just don't want to guilt anyone who's using sex as currency. Not
Yes,
advice.
thank you. Thank you,
as
Timothy.
long as it's consensual and everyone knows and agrees upon what the boundaries and the expectations and everything, I mean, that's fine. And I think that the general public doesn't really have that conversation of consent and understanding of how to get what they want.
Right. Wait, I've got us on gallery view because I'm about to bring up one of the big ones. The question is, how do I date more than one person without people getting hurt? That's one question. And then we had another question that somebody asked, how can I avoid getting jealous? So I just want to acknowledge that whether it's a single person who's dating multiple people, or whether it's open relating or polyamory, let's tackle that. How to handle feelings and emotions when more than one person is involved. Who wants to start? Trish, and then Timothy. Okay, you got it. It's on you, Trish.
Clear, honest, consensual communication. And feelings are going to get hurt. You can just accept that. Your feelings are going to get hurt. Their feelings are going to get hurt. It's just the way people have the tendency to roll. So jealousy might come up, but it's really about having compassion for yourself and for the other person. Like if Timothy and I are in a relationship and he's like, we're in an open relationship and he's like, hey, that person that has things that I'm insecure about is kind of making me insecure. And now if I be a B word about it, then that's one thing. And then if I'm like, oh my God, Timothy, I love you. Tell me what the things are, and really drop into that place to really listen from an empathetic heart, then it's going to shift the entire way that we relate. It's not about, whether there's jealousy or not. There's always insecurities. Like, we're human. It's adorable and sweet. And those insecurities teach us something. They're direct pointers, right? I'm developing a program on jealousy that's coming out in the spring. So ding, ding, ding.
Thank you. And say the big four again. What are the four? You have 4 words. Most of them starting with C. Did you make those up off the spot?
Yes, because that was stream of consciousness. And I don't quite remember.
It was communication, connection, consent.
Oh,
Honesty.
Honesty.
Connection.
All right.
Honesty, consent, very much honesty, being directly honest about where I am and what I'm doing.
Beautiful.
Like if I just want to have sex with Timothy, I should just probably say, hey, Timothy, I want to do that. Or if I want to say, hey, Scott, I want to do that. And I don't want a relationship and I want no strings attached. And what that looks like is, and when things get messy, this is what it also looks like. Because I know that someone is going to have that oxytocin that Heidi was saying, whether it's me or them or whoever, that there's going to have that happen. And just to be able to be honest and upfront and really direct about that.
Beautiful. Timothy,
Yeah, dive into this dating word. So I'm dating A, B, and C, but A doesn't know about B, B doesn't know about C, C doesn't know about A and B, and I'm actually intimate with two of the three and about to get intimate with another, but I'm quote unquote dating. I hear this a lot from monogamous people, and no judgment, but the difficulty there is there's a lack of honesty, there's a lack of transparency, and often a lack of discussion around sexually transmitted funny bacteria. And because there's nothing wrong with funny bacteria. So I really am a believer in the honesty part when we are dating 1, 2, 3, or more people, whether we want to call it dating or open relating or polyamory isn't important. It's that honesty, and that is a respect for oneself, a respect for the others, and it allows people to have choice. If you're dating someone or you're in relationship with more than one person, and someone's not having choice because you're not telling them about someone you're relating with or to, respectfully to their boundaries. Some people want to know less, some people want to know everything. Then that's not honest. That's going to create pain for yourself, for others. We call, people in monogamous will call that cheating. It's the same thing if you're dating 3 people and you're not telling 2 of the people about one of the people, then in a way you're hiding something, you're cheating. And that causes pain and hurt. That's why we look down upon it in most formats. And then just to jump to jealousy a little bit, I love that topic. I don't believe that jealousy is an emotion. I believe it's an umbrella, and it has many components. And those components are typically around a staff or a cane of insecurity. And most of us have insecurities because of our family of origin or our upbringing or some soft, hard trauma in our lives. We feel inadequate. And so the fact that, well, and I'll also add the other parts of the umbrella are media, Walt Disney, the fact that we have this idea that we're supposed to be find our partner and be happy forever and never look elsewhere. But ultimately, if we can own the jealousy, come into our insecurity, feel what's uncomfortable, feel what is really not pleasant. If we do that enough times, we sit in the fire of our own insecurity, our own inadequacies enough, we can eventually get to where we realize, I'm being a little silly. My partner is taking a walk with their ex-girlfriend because they're really good friends. They're not doing anything sexual at all. I trust him. And my jealousy is really not about that. It's really about the fact that I feel insecure. I don't feel enough. And ideally, we could get to a place where we overcome jealousy and we're happy for our partner who's off with his ex-girlfriend having a nice interaction and a walk. Or if we're in an open relationship, I'm excited and happy for Trish to go off with another man and really enjoy herself, or in person, another woman, and then come back and be all just lit up and happy and, wow, tell me about your date. It's so great. And I've got compersion. And in my world, ideally, I even want to reach out and know that other person and have some type of a relationship with them if they're open to it, so that there's even more mutual respect, more love, as opposed to compartmentalization and division. So to me, jealousy is really built around our own internal insecurities. And that's the gift of jealousy. It helps us heal on the inside.
I totally love that. And you're absolutely right. It's dissolving and unraveling all the pieces that make up jealousy. And I'd love to invite you to explain what compersion is to everyone and how it can relate to not just polyamorous folks, but to everyone. Like what that
compersion,
friendships.
Compersion is, I have a little, well, Trish, let's just say she's my girlfriend, and I bring home a puppy dog. And she loves the puppy dog and she's playing with the puppy dog and it's so great and it makes me so happy. I have compersion with the puppy dog. I love that the puppy dog makes Trish so happy. That's compersion. So if my best friend Adrian gets to go downhill skiing At Vail, for 3 weeks, I have compersion because I love skiing and I know what that's like, and that's great. Where it starts to fall apart is when what we consider our partner being like a possession goes and does something that brings up our insecurity. Then all of a sudden we're not having compersion. So the opposite of jealousy would be compersion. As we heal the insecurity, we get greater access to compersion, meaning I'm happy that whatever makes Trish happy is really good and healthy and happy in my book. And that doesn't mean I can't have boundaries and say, well, I'm still not fully comfortable with you rock climbing. It scares me. Would you be willing to only do it where there's top roping?
I so appreciate all of you. And I'm going to say a little something vulnerably about compersion. I was in a relationship for 5 years that ended about 2.5 years ago. And she really wanted to be polyamorous. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to practice compersion as a spiritual practice. And I intellectually saw the value of it. And I spiritually was there. And my animal body freaked out. After a certain point, my animal body said, I can't do this anymore. And this is while I'm still, the head of Love Coach Academy and, supposedly fairly masterful in relationship. And so I just want to acknowledge that we have different parts of ourselves, and it can really come up with something like compersion, where one part of us is okay, but another part of us is like, no, this is not working for me. And we don't want to be controlling, and we don't want to be dictatorial, and it's spiritual to be compersive, and it's spiritual to be open-minded, and that's all true. But we also have an animal body, and we have to be in tune with all parts of ourself, the animal body, the egoic body, the spiritual body, and kind of conversing with all those different parts of ourselves. So anyway, I just had to jump in and add that. And yeah, thank you. My friends are twinkling me, so I appreciate the twinkling. All right. Our next question, I had it marked here. Here we go. So the honeymoon period is wearing off and he's beginning to bug me. How do I know if this is the person that I should really be with? So who wants to tackle that? Maybe explain. By the way, I want to say the great Paul Sterling has joined us. And by the way, it turns out we had a little bit of a restream technology gaffe and our introductions got lost. So I'm going to actually have to introduce each of you one more time, and I'll just do it as you kind of come in and periodically. So how do we, what is the honeymoon? Who wants to tackle what the honeymoon stage is, and then how to handle when that person starts to bug you? The shit starts to stink. Mr. Sterling. All right. So this is Paul Sterling, definitely a master senior love coach, the author of Argue Less, Love More. And he has 2 shows that he does every week on Love Coach Academy. So take it away, Paul.
Thank you, Scott. And if people want to look at it this way, there's sort of a bell curve. So in the beginning, the honeymoon stage is where you're grateful and you find all these different parts of gratitude. Your beloved can bring you home a rock and you're like, oh my God, I got to call my girlfriend. It's a rock. He brought me a rock. And what happens is when it starts curving over, we start to take each other for granted. So we go from gratitude to granted. And when we're in gratitude, it's easy to win and hard to lose in the relationship. You give them the benefit of the doubt. And then when we move over the edge, we start doubting the benefits. And we start making it hard to win and easy to lose. And the thing is, in the beginning, you get like a free pass. There's 3 months, 6 months, a year, like you get a free pass. And after that, you start using up the savings account. And you have to actively start looking for things, have a gratitude practice, getting up in the morning, being grateful. It's like being happy to be ourselves, we had to be grateful for being ourselves and what's great about me and what's great about the people I love and care about. So it's taking it on as an active practice. What do you love about your partner so that things can get better and better? And I see people that like burn through the honeymoon phase in weeks or months, and I see other people that have been together 20 and 30 years and still adore each other because they're finding things to be grateful for. So that's an answer.
A wonderful answer. Thank you, Paul. And thanks for joining us. Who else wants to tackle when the honeymoon phase wears down and how to handle irritations with another person? Adrian, you're up.
Yeah, I think speaking to some things that have been mentioned a few times here, Heidi's spoken to it, the goggles of oxytocin. And how long do the chemicals propel us into, again, what Paul talked about, this upward curve where we start, the chemicals wear off a little bit. And we start kind of being with the person underneath it, and things start to reveal themselves. Our shadows come out, and qualities in the person that might not have been as prevalent start to show themselves. And I think that one thing that can happen theoretically is that we start to see a little bit more clearly, fully who this other person is. We don't show all of ourselves fully. At the beginning of the relationship, we often show our best selves. Our shadow stays hidden. Our reactive tendencies stay hidden. And I think there is kind of like a reckoning that starts to happen as the honeymoon phase ends of like, okay, who is this person that I'm really with? What qualities, what are the fuller qualities of this person? What do they want to do? How do they want to spend their time? What are their reactive tendencies? How do they navigate challenging situations, arguments? It can take a while before conflict really comes out. And I think it's a time when we can start asking ourselves, oh, okay, well, what is it that I really want as these tendencies are manifesting that are bugging us? It's a helpful time to self-reflect and get really honest, if we haven't already. What is it that I want? What qualities that I want to be in relationship? And start kind of speaking to the reality that we're in. Okay, something's bugging us. Hey, this is coming up for me, and really bringing light to what's happening, whether it's really significant or less significant, and getting clear on how it is we want to move forward, asking for our, oftentimes, and I think for a lot of relationships, it never happens where we get clear on what we want and we ask for it. So it's a good opportunity to start getting clear on what it is we want and asking for what it is we want.
Beautiful. Well, here's a segue. Asking for what you want. Here's a question. We're in a longer-term relationship, and when I make any romantic or sexual overture and she says no, I feel rejected, and then I don't want to ask again. So who wants to tackle that issue that happens definitely after the honeymoon phase? Who wants to tackle that? Jessica.
Well, I think that this comes down to a very similar conversation as the jealousy conversation, because when we look at these deep sort of injuries that spark within us over time, it usually says more about who we are than who they are. And so if we can do a deep dive into those underlying currents and belief systems that are keeping us stuck in this belief that, because I'm imagining in this situation, and I've worked with clients in this situation, I think it's very common to feel like when I approach my partner in this very vulnerable ask, and they say, no, thank you, whether it's politely or not, that there's an injury there and it feels like rejection. And so, and that can stem from, other times that we felt that sense of rejection or someone else not being willing or able to meet our needs in the moment. And it really points to what our insecurities are at a deep level. And so we can use that as fuel to go within and do some self-inquiry and say, well, what is the base of this? How can I heal myself? And then maybe that leads into more open, clear communication, maybe taking one of our courses where you can make different and clear asks, where you can set a container with your partner. And this is the way that I feel comfortable receiving a no. This is a way that I would feel best receiving a no. There's a lot of things that can happen once we're clear within ourselves and what our base need is. When something like this gets stirred up, we can make really clear asks of our partner in the long run that help us to hold each other in kindness and in love, knowing that that's a tender spot. Because I think that even when we're dealing with difficult issues, if we feel like we're on the same page, it really.
Oh, Jessica, you were doing great. Come back. All right, Trish had something to add while we wait for Jessica to hopefully come back in, and also Timothy.
I'm so loving what Jessica was saying about really being compassionate and empathetic. First off, like if someone's coming to you and asking like, and sharing their sexual energy with you and wanting that, like honoring that, being like, oh my gosh, they want to share that with me, because they could not. But what I really want to speak to is about self-sourcing. And I'm really into it. I'm really like, it's one of my things, even in my relationship, I'll speak really vulnerably. Even in my relationship, there's places where I'm like, oh, meow. And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go self-source my own needs here. And it doesn't just work sexually, but with my own emotional space. Like if he doesn't have capacity, or if she doesn't have capacity to listen to my like whatever happened in my day, either I can give myself the opportunity to hold myself there, or I can find another person to do that with for me. Not necessarily sexually, but you have masturbation. And I'm a really big proponent for self-love in that way as well. So you can masturbate. And you don't have to make it mean anything about them or you if they're not interested in the moment.
As Woody Allen said, don't knock masturbation. Hopefully you're having sex with someone you love.
Yourself.
Exactly. Self-sourcing. Timothy, I think you have something you want to add here.
Yeah, and if I can, Heidi, would you be willing to help me out? So Heidi's my imaginary partner, wife, whatever you want to call it. We're not in relationship.
Real. Just kidding.
Yeah, we're not in relationship. She's not imaginary, but just for this role play, one thing that I work with men on is something like this. Heidi, I would love for us to have every week at like 5 in the afternoon after you come home from work on Friday, a time to get together. And all I ask is that you let me give you a massage or draw the bath for you, cook you dinner, really just love you up and take care of you. Would you be willing to commit? And it doesn't have to be hard. You could say ahead of time, hey, Timothy, I'm going to be late or I'm not going to make it. But would you be willing to commit to that type of an interaction every Friday at 5 o'clock where I just really get to adore you and love you? And I'm really talking about massage, a bath, whatever other needs you have, cooking into your favorite meal.
Are you joking?
How would you feel about that?
I would feel wonderful, and I would love to have that.
And so my point is, it's often really good to lower the expectations and be open to greater possibilities. If you add the self-sourcing that Trish was talking about, if I am really taking care of my own sexual needs, my sexual cup is full, I ought to be able to offer my partner what I know they want and need rather than impose upon them what I want and need. And if I can do that, often it'll turn over time to Heidi feeling relaxed, more comfortable, and say, you know, would you be willing to do this for me after I've massaged her for a while? My goal is not to manipulate her. That's not going to work. My goal is not to set up sex. My goal is to just take care of myself, self-source, and then create a time to really love Heidi in whatever way she wants. She might say, let's go out and garden on Friday. I hate gardening. Okay, let's do that, right? I'm because I've agreed to meet her on Fridays in whatever way is her love language.
I want to riff on this in a little different angle too. I love what you're saying. And I think that, I mean, I love to call it the spirit of generosity in relationship. And Timothy, you and I have talked about this before. Like when we are generous and we actually want to meet our partner's needs, they're full. And when your cup is full, it spills over on others. So giving and receiving is a wonderful thing. And he's naming, starting it with generosity. But I want to bring up the taboo thing of, I imagine if you're watching this and you heard Timothy and the way I reacted to it was like, that's so sweet. He wants to do that. But if he was to say, honey, at every Friday night at 5, can we make an appointment for sex? Half of you might be like, yeah, that's awesome. And half of you might be making him bad for asking for sex once a week, or her bad for asking for sex. And I just want to bring that up because I have a different take on that. I think that sexual exchange is a very high need for some people and low for others. And that's a whole nother topic, which could maybe not be a match, but in my estimation, giving someone a massage because you love them, you might not always feel like it, but you do it because you love them. And this also borderlines don't doing things and get a resentment, codependency, a whole nother topic. But talking about generosity, you can also have sex because you love someone, not against your own body value, not giving yourself away, not when you're going to be resentful. Again, a whole nother topic, but out of the generosity of love, being like, hey, you know, I'm not totally in a sexual mood. This is what I can do tonight. I can be naked next to you while you self-pleasure. I can touch you. I can do this, or just know that I'm not totally into it, but I'm open to you because I love you. You know, there's different ranges of emotion. And again, I'm not trying to trigger anybody that gives themselves away and doesn't want to. I did that for years. That is not what I'm talking about here. But I'm talking about sex not being a taboo need that's like better than, less than helping cook dinner or take care of the kids. Like it's a valid need in relationship for a lot of people.
That was so pertinent. I just earlier today was working with a couple that there was an issue that came up, that he wants her to always be as into sex as he is. And if she's willing to be sexual but not as excited about it, then he pushes it away. So thank you for saying that, Heidi. While I have these two magnificent souls on, I'm going to bring up a poster because they do a show. They've been doing it for, I think, over 6 months now. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful show. I'm so proud of it. And it's called Recovery Talk. Connection is the opposite of addiction. It's their show that they do every Tuesday night. And they just moved it to 5 o'clock Pacific time. So the poster says 6. We need to make a new poster that says 5. Heidi, Timothy, just tell us, obviously the show covers so many things, but what are some of the topics and things that people are going to find by watching your show?
I mean, I can't say enough about how thorough Heidi is at covering some of the topics. And one of the ones that, if you go back and watch the very first videos, is really diving into codependency. And Heidi has a beautiful way of describing it where it's not good or bad. It's really something like a spectrum. And we talk about it that way, where there's interdependence, codependence, and we can find ourselves somewhere on that spectrum, and sometimes over here, and then next week back over here. What we want to watch out for is getting locked in over at codependency. And then we break apart why that is, how she's really good at breaking down how to identify if you're being codependent or if you're over here on the interdependent cycle. So that's just one aspect of recovery talk. And I'd love to hear from you, Heidi. I've grown and gotten a lot out of it. I've struggled with codependency. I've struggled with compulsive sexual behavior, bordering on sexual addiction. There's a great show on that where we dive into sexual addiction, which is one of my specialties. And so I've gotten a lot out of working with you. I just really appreciate that you've invited me to be your co-host. So thank you.
I think I'll run, some bullet points of topics: codependency, love addiction, sex addiction, fantasy addiction, love avoidant. How do we avoid intimacy with ourselves, others, and life? We talk about addiction. We talk about how to deal with someone you love being an addict. We talk about recovery. Talk about communication, relationship, really anything that has to do with connection to ourselves, others, and life. And a lot has spin around living a recovered life and process addiction and substance addiction. But what I want to say is that Timothy and I have a special thing that happens, and no matter what we talk about, it's just like what he shared tonight, and then I'm like, poof, I have to share this, and we just really go like that off each other and have a lot of fun teaching together. And so I feel like it's divinely inspired a lot what comes out of our mouths. We have sometimes a topic or a template, and then it just comes. And I love that. And we love to goof around. We cry. We talk about suicide. It's just, it's up and down and all around as far as emotions go. And join us. And if you have something you want to hear about or you want to be on the show, reach out to Timothy or I, because we also love to have people live on with us if you need support around any of those topics.
All right, Tuesday nights at 5 o'clock Pacific time, and it is a wonderful, wonderful show. I'm really, really proud of it. I want to also highlight, I'm going to put the spotlight on Adrian, because Adrian's been doing a show with 2 or 3 other love coaches every Tuesday. And as we're kind of winding down into our final 15 minutes, I'm going to just kind of spotlight each of you, give you a chance to talk a little bit about your shows. Adrian, tell us about From Triggers to Treasures every Tuesday at 10. Well, there's a lot of T's in there.
There are. It's been really fun working with Anna Prabha and Candace and Mimi, though she's not with us these days. We tackle how to move from being triggered to finding the treasure underneath our reactions, our resistance, our struggles. And we pick a wide variety of topics and dive deep and share vulnerably from our own experiences, and bring forth a lot of the amazing tools that we've all certainly gleaned from being with Love Coach Academy, and all of the amazing things that we've learned along the way. And it's been really fun. I think it's a great show, and it's been super helpful for me, just thinking out loud and being in this process with 2 amazing people, and answering the questions, and looking at how to be freer, more loving, more peaceful, more capable human beings.
Beautiful.
There we are. Oh my goodness.
There it is. Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. And it's always Adrian and Anna Prabha, sometimes Candace, sometimes Mimi, also known as Radiance. And it's a great show. Tuesdays at 10. So, thank you, Adrian, for just being so consistent with that show. It's a really wonderful.
Yeah, it's been great.
Paul Sterling. Paul has been also doing some really terrific shows, and he's doing 2 shows a week for Love Coach Academy, and then you also have your Across the Aisle show. Paul, tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Well, it's the Courageous Love show, and the act of love is courageous and being vulnerable and looking at all the different aspects of it, from courageous communication to understanding the dynamics of relationship, what trips I talk about, what also trips your triggers, the patterns that push people apart, And I did that topic we started on got so juicy of asking for sex and being turned down. And that's part of the courageous thing, is to acknowledge the courage it takes to be vulnerable in relationships. And even if you're going to say no to somebody, to acknowledge the courage that it takes as a human being to make any request and get clear on, keeping the connection, even if you say no. So, and the last thing on that, Scott, is talking about our precious needs. What are our precious needs and how are we treating them? So it's an amazing show. It's interactive. I love to answer questions, and I've been coaching couples for over 25 years. So, and I love what you put together.
It's Thursdays at 6 o'clock, 6:05 p.m. Thursdays at 6:05, Sundays at 4:05. So that's where you can get some really good stuff with Paul. And Paul, you've got some great guests that join you. I know that you recently had Trish, and you had a lot of our other love coaches and also other guests as well. So just want to acknowledge that. Thank you so much.
Oh, what are we doing together?
Oh yeah, Trish and I are doing From Single to Relationship Ready, to help couples. And some couples, I heard you guys talking about it earlier, have been single for a month, a week, or something. Some people haven't been single for 20 or 30 years. They lost a partner and they're entering in a whole new reality. When they got together, there was no such thing as the internet or dating or all of that. And they're terrified. And what does it take to go from being single to being ready for a relationship? Availability, capability, and willingness. So Trish, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I'm really excited to help people really find their sovereign space and really define what they're looking for and develop the skills and tools that it takes to get into a healthy relationship with themselves and others. And I'm really excited to do it with you. So stay tuned. We don't have anything prepared yet. It's in the works and we're going to drop it very soon. Excited.
Well, go ahead, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say, if you are interested, if that calls to you, get a hold of Scott or Trish or me. Send a message now while it's in your mind. If it excited you, send us a message and you'll be the first one, because there's a special bonus for the first 10 people who sign up. So if it intrigues you.
Yep. And you can also sign up for the singles group as well. And that you'll be notified about when that's coming out in like weeks.
Trish is very active in Love Coach Academy. Obviously, we do our show on Friday nights, but she also does a wonderful show with her girlfriend, her partner, Dawn Light. Tell us about the Self-Love Show, Trish.
The Self-Love Show is to help people and to practice the tools of really finding your center and your core and really starting to self-source your own needs. Dawn is a spiritual psychologist, spiritual counselor, I have to say that, spiritual counselor. And yeah, we do amazing work together. The things that we're developing in the background is also really exciting too. Anyway, watch our show if you really want to follow through and have tools that you can use to find how to rely on yourself, how to trust yourself, how to communicate better in your relationships. It's
a wonderful show. And I don't want to forget Jessica. Her internet is back on. Your internet's kind of been coming in and out, Jess. But everybody wants Jessica. We're all like, no, I want her to be on my show. No, I want her to be on my show.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, so there's a battle for Jessica's body, mind, spirit, and soul there. Jessica, tell us also how people can get a hold of you and get some session work with you and the brain spotting work.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty easy. It's just my name, Jessica Osterday, which you can see under the screen. It should have my name there, .com. So jessicaosterday.com, and you can just go in there. You fill out a little guy with your name and your email, and we can set up a consultation for you to take it to the next level. I just feel like all of the coaching, all of the tools, all of these things, they just save so much time. It's like you could just save yourself the pain. Save yourself the pain of another bad relationship. Save yourself the pain of the hurts that you're carrying with you. It really can be better. It really, really can. It's just that easy. Sometimes we just need help, you know? So I am just, I am such an advocate for healing because I know how much can change in a short period of time. It's really phenomenal. So,
You know, I want to acknowledge I'm a real snob about other coaches because I think I'm great and I train coaches. But actually, I've gone to Jessica for coaching twice. Once just kind of to receive some empathy coaching, and another time to get the brain spotting work. It was really powerful. So I want to say her work is outstanding. So a big
thank you.
recommendation for Jessica. Yeah.
Thank
I
you so much.
also am going to mention a couple of other things. I want to mention light touch. A lot of us practice light touch. And Jay Mayer has become a really wonderful friend and a big part of Light Touch, or a big part of Love Coach Academy. So I'm actually going to bring Trish and Timothy on for a moment because they are light touch practitioners. And light touch is a really wonderful way to awaken the senses, slow down, connect to higher forces. It's a wonderful way to manage connection without it being sexual. And so I'm going to just ask both Trish and Timothy to say a word about how you use light touch in your life.
I'll go first. We'll
Okay,
let
go.
Trisha go second. So it started out where I was practicing light touch with my nesting partner, Tomoko, morning and night. And now it's becoming an obsession. So I have this at my desk next to my bed. And whenever I can, I'm practicing light touch, which is increasing my oxytocin. But it's also when combined with intentions and prayers and invocations to the divine, or if we're not into God, then to the quantum field, the magnetic invisible forces. And I have manifested beyond my wildest dreams so many things, and so has my nesting partner Tomoko, through the light touch practice. Some examples would be, I love art. I've always wanted to work in a high-end art gallery. Well, through light touch and calling that in, I found an ad for a gallery. I went and did the interview, and I start December 2nd now. And I could go on. I'm getting so much out of it. But if I bring it grounded down to just simple, I could be stressed out. My mind is racing. I'm worrying about money. And I'll lay down and practice light touch with Tomoko, and it's like a complete reset. I come out of the light touch session just feeling open, positive in my body. My mind has settled. So it's for people who struggle with meditation, light touch can be a great entry point into really letting the mind settle and coming into presence. Trish.
Thank you, Timothy.
Yes. Well, I'm at the light touch practice group almost every morning. Some mornings are harder than others. But for me, light touch is an opportunity to not only just drop into my body, take myself into the frontal lobe, but to be in a community of people who are praying they're praying together. So we're really manifesting what we want and desire for ourselves and for others, for our clients. And it's a fabulous opportunity to just drop into the present moment. And I believe that the present and really dropping your mind on the most subtle place is really one of the most powerful places to be, to really manifest. And I love doing that with such an amazing, sweet, like the sweetest community on the planet. Every morning at 8:30.
That's right. Light touch practice, 8:30 every morning. That's California time, and 7:30 at night. And any of you who are interested, want to know more about it, you can private message Trish or myself or Timothy or Jay Mayer. Jay, we love you. George Noble in the Zoom room asks, is light touch a form of Tantra? Is it spiritualizing the touch sensation? Absolutely. You know, Tantra obviously means many things to many people. But it is definitely, I like what you said, spiritualizing the touch sensation. And yes, I would say that that's a very accurate way of presenting it. And people can go and learn much more about light touch. I'll actually bring up the banner right now. They've got a great website. Jay has a great website. Just go to light-touch.me. light-touch.me, and you can fill out a little survey. You can find out more about light touch. Jay's created some videos that are up there, and so definitely check it out. All right, 2 last announcements, 2 more ways you can connect with these wonderful people. Trish and I taught a workshop recently, and people enjoyed it so much they wanted more, and a lot of people wanted to take it and had scheduling difficulties. So we are going to do it again, and we're going to make it actually 1 hour longer. It's merging without toxic enmeshment, maintaining your center while rising in love. I'm actually noticing this banner says 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's not accurate. It's going to be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on December 12th. So I'll put into the Zoom room and also into Facebook where you can register, or just private message Trish or private message me, and we can send you some more information. But it's going to be a great way for all of us. Let's face it, it feels so good to merge. And then we merge and we get jealous and funky stuff happens. And Trish and I have some really good tools that we like to teach about that. Right, Trish? Yeah.
Oh, so excited. Oh, that was a segue. Sorry, I didn't catch that one.
Segue to Trish.
Yes, I'm so excited about teaching that class again. Merging enmeshment's really easy when you don't have the tools and the skills to build healthy relationships. But merging is really what we want to do. So staying in your center and meeting that person where they are and letting them meet you and inviting them to meet you where you're at is where really you can just dive into a really healthy, loving, compassionate relationship. Let's build better relationships together, all of us.
All right. So last thing for tonight, you've met these amazing love coaches. You want more connection. Guess what? We are offering, if you're sincerely interested in getting some coaching, we are offering a free 15-minute discovery session. So if you go to lovecoachacademy.com, and I'll take you there in a moment, when you go there, the first thing that pops up is a survey. And as this banner says, relationships are hard, especially today with pandemic, political uncertainty, economic uncertainty. We've got the tools to get you back into connection. And so if you go to lovecoachacademy.com, and once you're there, what'll happen is right off the bat, you will see a survey that'll come up, and that you fill out that survey. There we go. Here's the website. I'll show you. It's a nice pink website. Notice how right away it says, welcome to Love Coach Academy. Let me ask you a few questions. You just click it and you fill out this little survey. And it's really simple. Asks a few questions and it helps us learn a little bit more about you, what you're looking for, what kind of situation is going on. And as you answer these questions, we get to know who you are, and then we can decide which of our love coaches might be best for you. And we'll set up a discovery session for 15, 20 minutes. If there's someone you've seen tonight, like you really want to get coached by Timothy or Jessica or Heidi or Adrian, whomever it might be, let us know that. We're here to connect. I know each of these people. I've known them all for quite a while. They're incredible. They're wonderful coaches. They're wonderful human beings. And I'm proud of each and every one of you. So I'm going to go to gallery view to conclude. Thank you for spending Friday night with us, you guys. It was like a little Love Coach Academy reunion tonight, right?
Yay! So grateful to see these beautiful, amazing, powerful, loving people.
Yeah. My dog is crying. She can tell that the webinar is almost over and it's time for her night walk. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you missed part of it, go back to the beginning. You can find all of this, all of our shows that we've talked about at Love Coach Academy page. Go to the Love Coach Academy page on Facebook, click videos, and you'll see Timothy and Heidi, and you'll see Jessica, and you'll see Adrian, and you'll see me and Trish, and you'll see Paul Sterling. You'll find all the videos that we've done there, and we've done a lot. It's good stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody.